What does it feel to leave behind your motherland? Suddenly, one day, one has to run away from the home of his ancestors. A child doesn't even know why his father is taking him away from his home and friends to a wholly unknown place. You and I, staying in our acquainted atmosphere, probably can't get the feeling, right? But the refugees from Ukraine certainly can explain this pathetic pain. In this video, we'll try to tell you some stories about the Ukrainian refugees. Hello everyone, welcome to the Ukraine War. We are here to deliver to you all the new political movements regarding the Russia-Ukraine conflicts, the casualties, strategies, and the aftermath of the ongoing war in detail. Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon if you don't want to miss any of those. Without any further delay, let's start. The invasion of Ukraine by Russian President Vladimir Putin has triggered the world's worst humanitarian disaster in decades. The Russian invasion of Ukraine could result in up to 7 million refugees. According to experts, the conflict can quickly become Europe's worst humanitarian crisis since. 1 million people have fled from Ukraine along the border in bitterly cold weather to save their lives. Before reaching a safe shelter, refugees faced delays of several hours and days. They had tried every transportation system they found. The fatigue in people's faces is the first characteristic that leaps out in the photos that were circulating in the news. It all started on the date of 22 February 2022 with the invasion of one of the most powerful countries, Russia. The Russian leader's primary goal was to overrun Ukraine and topple its government, effectively putting an end to Ukraine's desire to join NATO. Now, according to the UN Refugee Agency, 10 million people have been displaced, and nearly 4 million have fled to neighboring countries such as Hungary, Moldova, and Poland. The United Nations is preparing for the greatest war-related mass migration since the 1990s Balkan Wars. At least 902 civilians have perished and 1,459 have been injured as of March, while the true numbers are likely to be substantially higher. Hundreds of thousands of people have been left without electricity, water, or necessities as a result of Russian attacks that have targeted densely populated areas. Meanwhile, COVID-19 transmission is still widespread in Ukraine, with just roughly 36% of Ukrainians properly vaccinated against the virus. Access to treatment becomes increasingly difficult as the country's health services are already pushed tight. News agency AFP reported that those refugees heading to Romania had to pass through the Siret in the north of the country, where a camp has been set up, along with a second near Sighetu Marmației. In Hungary, which shares 5 border crossings with Ukraine, refugees were seen disembarking from trains arriving every 30 minutes in the capital. Many of those reaching Poland have waited up to 60 hours in freezing weather before finally crossing the border. They even had to prove that they are refugees. They must be Ukrainian citizens or legal residents of Ukraine, such as foreign students, to qualify for refugee status. Volunteers in yellow high-visibility jackets passed them bananas, bread rolls, and water bottles to newcomers at the Berlin station. At Hungarian border stations, volunteers were handing out hot tea, coffee, and pizza, as well as flowers and small charms to refugees. In this critical situation, the agony they felt is unimaginable. There are many stories of the refugees circulating on social media. They are truly heart-wrenching. We have some of them to share with you. The sound of air raid sirens and explosions awoke Natalia, Irina, and Kristina, 3 friends and moms from Odessa, Ukraine, on February 24 when the military onslaught by Russia had begun. Irina, 24, utilized her neighbor's cellar as a shelter with her 4- and 6-year-old sons as the military strike began. When they heard air raid sirens, they had to dash to the shelter every 30 minutes. They decided to leave Ukraine for the sake of their children's safety. To them, it was extremely difficult to explain how they had to sleep in the basement and how terrifying the explosions were. They had never heard of it before. Natalia was accompanied by her 17-year-old and 4-year-old daughters. Her mother and husband remained in the house. God knows how they are. There's more like them. Sher Alkroy, a Syrian citizen, left his native country in the year of 1996 and settled in Ukraine, where he runs a furniture company. When violence broke out near the Russian border, Alkroy evacuated his home in Kharkiv. Tanya and her children traveled for more than 30 hours before arriving at the Przymyl train station in Poland. The family traveled for another 10 hours before arriving in Warsaw. She said, "I come from a town called Kryvyi in central Ukraine, and near my house there is a military base. The other night they were bombing constantly from 4 in the morning to 7. We were afraid, so I took the kids and I fled." She further said, "My husband is still there, and I start crying every time I think of that. I am so afraid for the children and the men left behind fighting in Ukraine. I just want to go home. I want to go home as soon as possible. I do not want to travel to other European countries because I want to stay close. As soon as I can go home, I will." A Red Cross worker in Hungary recently spoke about his experiences. When the unrest started in Ukraine, he became among the country's more than 3 million refugees. Francis said, "The Red Cross has been very generous. They offered us food and tea and helped make food for my baby." Victoria and her mother traveled over 500 kilometers from Kyiv, Ukraine, to Zahony, Hungary, on the Hungary-Ukraine border, with 2 little puppies in her knapsack. She expressed her inability to leave them behind. She and the puppies are now on their way to Warsaw, Poland, to live with a cousin. In the best of circumstances, walking into a new school is nerve-wracking, but when you've lost everything and have to travel to a distant nation, it's downright terrifying. But we witnessed some great examples of humanity. Italian children greeted Ukrainian immigrant classmates by clapping, shouting, and singing to help calm them down. The video that went viral on the social media platform shows the 2 students entering the school cautiously, only to be astonished by the kind reception. Refugees are constantly ingesting news on social media about the turmoil from which they are escaping. They use Telegram channels that advise them where the shortest lines are, which agencies might be able to assist them, and how to find a place to sleep for the night. It should have been noted that a considerable percentage of Ukrainian refugees are children. UN humanitarians warn that nearly 1 child is becoming a war refugee every second in Ukraine, as the total number of people who have fled the nation since the Russian invasion began surpassed 3 million. Humanitarians in Mariupol have warned that the situation in the port city has worsened as a result of increased Russian airstrikes. Hundreds of thousands of people are suffocating due to a lack of supplies and are unable to evacuate the city, which is under Russian assault. The situation was described as dire and desperate by the International Committee of the Red Cross. Europe has reacted quickly regarding this mobilization. Poland, which already has 1.5 million Ukrainians, including naturalized citizens and temporary migrant workers, has taken in more than half of all new migrants, with over 2.2 million. The country has set up temporary homes, hospitals, and reception centers that provide food, information, and medical supplies to prepare. Belarus, Hungary, Moldova, Romania, Slovakia, and other European countries have also taken the remaining refugees. Around 271,000 new refugees, or around 7.5% of all new arrivals, have made their way east to Russia. Ireland has declared that all visa requirements for Ukrainians seeking asylum will be waived, while the Czech Republic has withdrawn its entry ban and COVID-19 limitations on entering migrants. Officials from the European Union unanimously endorsed a plan to activate the bloc's Temporary Protection Directive, a seldom-used provision that would allow refugees leaving Ukraine to enter EU countries for up to 3 years without having to seek shelter. Since 2017, Ukrainian nationals have been free to enter the EU without a visa, allowing them to seek refuge in any EU member state. Separately, the U.S. has stated that its forces in Poland will be available to assist with the evacuation of refugees. People from all over the world have been doing incredible things to help, comfort, and protect Ukrainian refugees in many ways. War brings out the worst in people, but it also gives us the chance to show off our best qualities of humanity. With that being said, it takes us to the end of the episode. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't hesitate to subscribe to our channel and push notifications bell to keep up with our work. See you soon. Until then, peace.